right. Well, you guys, welcome back. If you are new here, we are the Habit team. The Habit is a nutrition coaching company made for women by women. Our program is built for you with coaches who put your goals, lifestyle, and personality first. If you want to learn more about us, head to the episode notes or go to thehabit.com. That's habit with a Y to either request more information or book your free discovery call.
Today, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite mindset tools because honestly, it's so simple and it can completely change the way you experience your health journey. So I like to call it the compare backward, not sideways. So if you've ever looked at someone else and thought, like, why can't I be where she's at? She makes it look so easy. I've been working so hard, but I'm nowhere close to the way she looks. Then today's episode is for you because comparison really isn't the problem. What you're comparing yourself to is the ultimate problem. So I thought of this topic because a client of mine in her check-in this past week, divulged that she saw her younger sister, and anytime she sees her younger sister, she's constantly catching herself comparing her. And she then internalized the fact that because they do not look the same, that she hasn't achieved as much as she really has in her program, which is so far from the truth. She's 41 weeks in and she has just absolutely crushed everything I have thrown her way. But I'm here to rationalize and validate this because it's a very, very normal thing that your brain does. So I'm going to dive into why our brains naturally compare, why social media makes it even worse, how comparison silently sabotages your motivation, and most importantly, how to retrain your brain to compare to the only person who actually matters, the version of you from 6 months ago. Comparison is one of those things that completely steals our ability to recognize our own progress because we're measuring ourselves against someone else's circumstances. Have you ever heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy? Well, this is so applicable. So I want you to know that this is incredibly common. Our brains are literally wired to compare ourselves to other people. It's something psychologists call the social comparison. And unfortunately, our brains don't compare us to the average person. They compare us to whoever we perceive as doing better than us. So the problem is that comparison almost always ignores the context. For instance, I related to my client when she talked to me about how she compared herself to a younger sister. I did the same thing growing up. I have 2 older sisters. And to put this into perspective, I am 5'4", and one of my sisters is 6 feet tall. She looks like a dang model, okay? So, yeah. It is not okay for me to compare myself to her when we look from the beginning drastically different. But also, even though we had the same childhood, it doesn't matter because she has a completely different body, different hormones, different life experiences, different levels of stress, different responsibilities. So basically, I'm comparing one chapter of my story to an entirely different book. And so here's the thing. If your definition of success depends on someone else being less fit than you are, you'll actually never feel successful. There will always be someone leaner, younger, stronger, genetically more gifted. But if your definition of success is becoming a healthier version of you, then no one can take that away from you. So let's dive in. Let's first start why our brain compares. And this is really important because comparison is very, very normal. Your brain evolved to constantly scan your environment. Thousands of years ago, comparison helped humans survive. We asked ourselves who had food, who knew where the danger was, who was stronger, who belonged to the tribe. Our brains are constantly asking, where do I fit? The problem is our brains haven't caught up to Instagram, to social media. Instead of comparing ourselves to the 30 people in our small village, we're comparing ourselves to thousands of carefully curated highlight reels every single day. People with perfect lighting and angles and genetics and timing and circumstances. And then we wonder why we feel behind. So Sideways comparison is almost always incomplete. And so this is something I tell my clients all the time. When you compare yourself to someone else, you're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You don't know what their genetics, hormones, finances, stress levels, their diet history, their injuries, relationship with food, whether they're even healthy from the inside out. You only see the outcome. Imagine walking into the middle of a movie. You see someone crossing the finish line. You didn't watch the first 2 hours, yet somehow you assume they started exactly where you did. That's what we do every day on social media or just in real life to your relatives, to your siblings, whatever it might be. So here's the hidden cost of sideways comparison. Most people think comparison just makes them feel bad, but it actually does something much more dangerous. It changes your behavior. Let's say you've lost 15 pounds. You feel amazing. You're sleeping better, you're stronger, your clothes fit differently. Then you see someone online who's lost 60 pounds. Suddenly, your 15 pounds feels insignificant. Nothing about your progress changed, only your reference point did. And that's incredibly important because motivation doesn't come from objective progress. It comes from perceived progress. When your brain believes you're moving forward, it keeps going. When your brain believes you're standing still, it starts asking, what's the point? And I'm sure we have all experienced that before. So psychologists talk about something called the hedonic treadmill. It's our tendency to quickly adapt to improvements. So I want you to think about it. Remember how exciting it was when you hit your first 5-pound weight loss. Then 10 pounds became the goal, then 15, then 20. Your brain moves the finish line. The same thing happens outside of weight loss. You wanted to squat 135 pounds, then 185, then 225. So you wanted to walk 3 days a week. Now that's not enough. Your brain is constantly normalizing yesterday's accomplishments unless you intentionally look backward. So this is where the comparing backwards comes into play. And so instead of asking, am I as good as her? You want to ask, am I better than I used to be? Think about the version of yourself 6 months ago. Maybe that version, she skipped breakfast, ate fast food 4 times a week, never drank water, never strength trained, felt guilty after eating dessert, thought carbs were the enemy, didn't know what protein even looked like. Now look at yourself today. Maybe you're hitting protein most days, walking consistently, lifting weights, learning how to read nutrition labels, recovering from bad weekends much faster, eating without guilt, cooking more at home. Those are enormous wins. But you stop seeing them because they've become your new normal. So progress isn't just weight loss, which obviously we talk about all the time with our clients. And it's one of the biggest mistakes people make is measuring progress with only one metric, the scale. Imagine if you judged your finances using only your checking account balance, ignoring investments, ignoring, retirement, ignoring debt reduction, ignoring, income growth. That would be ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly what people do with health. Health has dozens of currencies, though. Strength, energy, confidence, sleep, consistency, mood, mobility, digestion. I could go on and on and on. And the scale is just one minute point out of all of them. So let me tell you a little story about another client. I had a client recently who was super frustrated. She told me, I still have 25 pounds to lose. And I asked her a different question. I said, what couldn't you do 6 months ago that you can do now? She paused, really had to think about it, and then started listing things like, well, I don't binge anymore. I meal prep every Sunday. I actually enjoy working out and lifting weights. I feel stronger. I got my blood work done and it's improved. I sleep better. My clothes fit different. My husband says I'm happier. And then she honestly laughed and goes, well, shit, I guess I have changed a lot. Exactly. The weight wasn't the only transformation. It was just the easiest one to measure. So let me use another analogy. Um, the stock market analogy. I want you to think about investing. And I use this one all the time because I love it. If you bought a stock today, would you expect it to go straight up forever? Absolutely not. There's going to be dips, corrections, plateaus, volatility, but I want you to zoom out 5 years, and the trend tells the real story. Your health works the same exact way. The problem is most people zoom in too close. They judge themselves based on today's weigh-in, this week's workouts, one weekend vacation, one bad meal, instead of zooming out, looking at the trajectory and asking, am I healthier than last year? That's the graph that truly matters. So, one mindset shift I love is celebrating identity instead of achievements. So instead of saying, I'll be proud when I lose 30 pounds, you want to say, I'm proud because I'm someone who shows up for myself. That's an identity. The scale doesn't control that. You do. Maybe you didn't lose weight this week, but you planned your meals, you got your steps in, you lifted 3 times, you ate your protein. You're becoming someone different, and that's progress. So here's something, if this is, really ringing true to you right now, I want to give you a practical exercise you can do at home. So something I want you to do, grab a notebook and I want you to write down these 5 questions. Question number 1, what can I do today that I couldn't do 1 year ago? Question 2, what healthy habits feel automatic now that once felt impossible? Question number 3, how has my relationship with food changed? Question 4, how has my confidence changed? And then lastly, question 5, if the old version of me saw who I am today, what would she be proud of? And I promise you'll come up with more than you think. So there are still strategies to kind of mitigate some of this comparison, right? So here's another challenge, the social media reality check. For 1 week, every time you catch yourself comparing yourself to someone online, pause instead of asking, why am I not her? Why do I not look like her? And by the way, it doesn't just have to be social media. Much like myself, my client, comparing ourselves to our siblings, our relatives, anyone, within your sphere. Instead, you want to ask, what evidence do I have that I'm improving compared to myself? You want to train your brain to search for your own progress, because whatever your brain looks for, it will find. So if you look for what's missing, you'll always find something. If you look for evidence of growth, you'll find that too. So let's use the mirror analogy to top off all the analogies that I'm throwing your way. Imagine you're driving a car. How often do you look in the rear view mirror? You glance, but you don't stare, right? The rear view mirror helps you understand where you've been, but it doesn't control where you're going. So comparing backward works the same. You're not living in the past. You're using the past as proof that you're capable of change. And that concept is very, very different. So I want to leave you with some final thoughts. I know I dumped a lot out on you, but I want to keep this short and sweet because I do feel like this can be very, very important for some of you out there to listen to and to understand. This is normal, and I'm validating you, but I'm also giving you tools to retrain your brain and to get out of that comparison, because comparison is the thief of joy. So I want to leave you with this. Someone else's chapter 20 should never become the measuring stick for your chapter 5. You have no idea how long they've been building. You don't know what they sacrificed. You have no idea where they even started, but you do know where you started, and that's enough. The goal of your health journey isn't to become someone else. It's to become a healthier version of yourself. So the next time comparison sneaks in, I don't want you to look sideways. We're going to be looking backward, because the person you used to be would probably be incredibly proud of who you've become. And don't rob yourself of that progress by measuring it against someone else's story. You are the only thing that you need to compare yourself to. Continue to look back of the old version and all the changes you've made, and I guarantee you will stop comparing yourself to others, and you are going to feel so much free in your thoughts and in your own journey. So I hope this resonated. Again, compare backwards, not sideways. Your only competition is the person you were yesterday. So I'm going to leave you with that. And until next time.